Perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to begin the August 19th, I almost said April, August 19th meeting of the Lynchburg Historical Preservation Commission. There should be agendas in the room, maybe on one of the back chairs. On the second page or the flip side of that, there you will, if I could direct your attention, there is a sort of a mission statement or illustration, if you will, of the committee's or the commission's purpose in doing business for the city. We can go ahead and actually start working our way through the agenda today. And I guess the first thing, do we want to do elections first thing?
Yes.
Right off the bat. Okay, we need to, I guess, carry forth with elections of, well, it would be chair and vice chair. So it has been, I guess, suggested that I continue as chair, and I'm happy to do that if no one has any objection. I will serve another term.
I
Is there-
nominate Chris McSwain to be
I second
chairman.
that.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, I guess I will sally forth and stay on as chair. I had posed the question before also amongst the group if anyone was willing to vice chair, which basically is assuming these duties should I not be here in any of the meetings through the year, and I have not heard an official response. Would anyone like to make a recommendation or offer up their services as vice chair?
That's always
That's a good one.
That is always good.
Well, I think Richard is vice chair
Richard
now.
is a senior individual, I guess. Well, Mark, I think, had been.
Mark was vice chair.
He was vice chair, and now he is no longer on the commission. So Richard, I think, would be the next most senior individual.
Is there anybody here that would like to nominate anybody or nominate themselves?
Should we nominate Richard if he's not here, though? I mean, that's technically, maybe can we pass that by and come back to it? Or
We
do
might
do
have
it?
to.
Yeah.
Unless someone here wants to
Did
immediately jump
he
forward.
say to you, Chris?
Yeah, he had, no,
Nope.
I did not get a response.
I mean, he's a consistent attender and
Mhm.
very knowledgeable. I'd like to nominate Richard Morris as vice chair, pending his
Approval.
resignation next month if he doesn't like it.
Pending.
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 It seems somewhat unanimous, so we'll show that Richard is now the vice chair unless he declines that offer. Although I think personally, I think he'd be more than willing to serve in that capacity, but I guess we'll run it by him. With regard to bylaws, did we have some changes or?
No changes as far as I know.
Okay.
Do you, this is just packaged with the elections?
Okay,
Do
just
you-
approving them as
Exactly.
they are. Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the bylaws as they exist currently?
So move.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent, that passes as well. And then advocates as far as pertaining
as-
to specific what neighborhoods,
Exactly.
and I think those have been somewhat established and,
Somewhat established, we were assuming that Beth would step into Mark Little's advocacy position.
Yeah.
If there were any changes, now would be a time to propose them, if anybody wanted a different district to be an advocate for.
does anyone request any changes to the way they're currently set up?
You're certainly welcome to change, we can shuffle these around.
So I would be Courthouse Hill and Diamond Hill.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Do we have a motion to accept them as they are?
So move.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show that that passes as well. We can move on to the consent agenda from July. We have a motion to accept that as it is.
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Let's see, going to old business, it's like we're bringing up a couple that were these directly from the last meeting? These two, were they pushed on from the last meeting?
The Michael Craig from 300 Harrison, that was from the June meeting.
June meeting, okay.
He came before you and you requested some more details. You requested some profiles for the roof. He has not submitted those yet, and code says that the HPC has to make a decision 60 days after the meeting.
First time, okay.
So staff has recommended denial because they did not submit the materials that you requested, and we have been in contact with them, but they have not yet submitted.
Okay. So he would just, if we vote on disapproval, then he'll just have to resubmit a new COA.
Exactly.
And hopefully provide all the appropriate documentation.
That's correct.
Okay. Do we have a motion amongst the commission?
I move to deny the application.
Do we have a second? All right. All those in favor of denial of this COA regarding 300 Harrison Street?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Hearing none opposed will show that that particular COA has been denied. And hopefully we'll receive further information and a new HO or COA for them when they're ready.
That's correct.
Okay, next is regarding 716 Cabell Street. If Mr. Davis is available to discuss that property? Mr. Davis, if you would, for the record, state your name and address.
Antoine Davis, 716 Cabell Street.
Thank you. Good to have you here.
Thank
All right, and this one is particular to the porch work on
Yes.
the front of 716.
you. Yeah,
Cabell.
replacing the handrails that we
Okay.
determined were not original to the house.
Mhm.
So last meeting they said for me to pick out something to get approved.
Sure,
So I'm bringing samples today for that.
excellent. All right, any commissioners wanted to review the material or have a look at the
So this little guy's
samples?
gonna set up on top of that.
So this is a kick space block, so that sits on the ground. This is the bottom rail and it has a slope top to divert the water. And then the picket sits on top of that. And then this is your top handrail. And that's the profile from the road.
Is the height of that similar to what's,
It is, this is actually 28 and a half inches, and what was on there was like 29. Yeah.
and this will be on everything on the front porch, right?
Everything on the front porch.
What is the spacing again on the blocks across the bottom?
This block is like 3 inches here.
Or how the spacing in between the blocks?
Well, you would only put these blocks where you need support, so it's only to support the bottom rail, so it's probably every 4 to 6 feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. Anyone have any further questions or care to make a motion?
I move approval of the application.
I second it.
Okay, any further discussion?
Just one question, just to
Please.
confirm, are you painting this white again, the same color? or
We're going to
what's your
paint this
intent?
the color trim that was approved previously, the Sherwin-Williams color, but we already had that approved.
Okay.
Hearing no further questions, call for a vote. All those in favor of passing is submitted?
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, you are free to proceed with the road.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate the detailed specs there. Let's see, we can move to,
Mr. Lawson requested to go to the next meeting. He wanted to discuss his COA with his advocate,
Mhm.
so he's tabled until September.
all right, then we can next move to, say again?
I had some questions for him, but that's okay.
Oh, yeah.
I'll plan to meet with him.
All right. Next, we can move on to 311 Rivermont Avenue. Hello, Miss Marion. I think we all know Miss Marion, but if you would please, for the record.
Nancy Marion, 117 Madison Street.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here today. if you'd like to go ahead and just give us a brief rundown of what we're looking at here for yours.
Okay. That's what my backyard used to look like, and trucks would park basically where the cars are parked now when we needed service done. And since I moved my office to the basement, I wanted a parking lot, so I just repaved the existing asphalt pavement for the driveway that goes to a garage door, and I put the pebbles there for the parking area.
That is pea gravel, right?
Yeah.
There was existing curbing that followed the contour of where the asphalt was?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that was just removed?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, does anyone have any questions,
So in terms of
feedback?
administrative, if it was asphalt, it's good to go back as asphalt?
That's what I understood.
The guidelines say that blacktop or asphalt driveways are not traditional to Lynchburg's overlay districts, and they're discouraged. So administratively, we would bring that before the board.
If it was already there? An in-kind replacement?
Mhm.
It had concrete driveway under the asphalt, and sometime in the last probably 40 or 50 years, it was asphalted. I'm not sure when, because I never paved it, and I've had it for 30 years.
Yeah, one of those first pictures you could see where it was exposed a little bit, right?
Yeah, the concrete was a little bit
Mhm.
exposed, but
Mhm.
it was cracked.
Right,
It was
here,
there.
yes. Mhm.
And that's probably been there since 1915 or 1920, when it became a funeral home.
Mhm. All right.
I didn't know it was a funeral home.
Mhm.
Shows you what I don't know.
Virginia Funeral Check.
Yep. It was Faber Funeral Homes before that.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, anyone? Care
I
to
mean,
make a motion?
I move that we accept it, that we approve it. I know it's after the fact, but the driveway itself is being replaced in kind. I think the pea gravel meets is something that could be, if it comes to us before it was done, the pea gravel is something that the code does allow for. So, I happen to have seen it in person too, and it looks nice, so.
Mhm.
It's pea gravel.
So I move that we approve it.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Now, actually, hold on, before we vote, do we need to also take into account the request for landscape changes back there?
I am just putting a hedge up there
Right.
between me and Tony West's
Tony's
property,
building,
so that I
right.
don't have to.
That's
wait
where the
for it.
arborvitae is going, along
Mhm.
there? Okay,
Landscape changes are either administrative or, more often than not, doesn't need a COA.
okay, perfect. Perfect, okay, well, we'll just stick with the driveway work then, which has been, a motion and a second, so is there any further discussion amongst the commission on that? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Hearing none opposed? It's good.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Okay, let's see. Let me check.
And Ms. Sherwood of 1003 Rivermont Avenue is considering colors that can be approved administratively for her house. So we'll be moving on to 405 Harrison Street.
405 Harrison Street. If there's a representative, please come forward. And not to be redundant, but if you could say your name and address for the record again.
Antoine Davis, 405 Harrison Street.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. All right, feel free to go ahead and explain the nature of this project from 405.
I'm with All Phase Roofing and Construction, and Mr. Davis had contacted me to look at the roof system and look at its entirety to replace it. When we went up on the roof, we noticed it was a hodgepodge of roofs. Everybody that's gone up there from the day it was built until today has decided they'd put a different roof system on it. So we have from asphalt shingles to turn metal to slate, and in my industry, there's not one that combines one to the other. There's a lot of areas you can't put slate. Mainly the front of it's slate, and we know in Lynchburg, majority of the houses were metal and the other half was slate. But what's happening is since there is no defined detail of putting slate to metal, and we can't put slate over the whole house, we're proposing to put metal on the whole house. And do a 1-inch snap lock, which would be really close to period correct in the looks and the seams with the heights and everything, to make it so it's all consistent and under one style of roof. That will help the structure stay a lot longer because we won't have an issue with a slate to metal tie-in or a slate to shingle tie-in or a metal to shingle tie-in. It puts all of them underneath one, and you can use all the correct details to keep the roof as watertight for as long as possible. In a lot of the areas that are failing where the two roofs meet. Does that make sense? That's where all the issues are coming from, and it's just no industry standard in anything to have multiple roofs touching and trying to flash them in alike. Does that make sense? So like with the asphalt shingle, if it's not made of asphalt, it's allergic to asphalt, so we have to treat it accordingly. So with that touching other stuff, other membranes and stuff like that, then we start having issues with them. So when I talked to Antoine, we were talking about just going completely and putting it all in metal, since the back half of the house is already metal, and we have to put metal on the low slopes anyway, since it is a low slope. That'd be the best alternative to do it all, so it all looks alike, so it doesn't look hodgepodge no more.
So front porch, am I seeing the front porch is metal?
Yes, sir.
Now, there was it was a portion that has already been approved for replacing
Yes,
metal.
that
with
was
metal,
approved
right?
to the front porch and
Front
also
porch.
the addition that was built about 20 years ago,
On
which
the-
went on the back of
On the back side, so
backside,
now we're
right,
just using your proposal is to use that same material that's already been approved, but just go over the whole
for
house.
the main house.
Okay.
yes.
He contacted me with several roof leaks, and it was an Amber slate that was installed. Now, I don't know if y'all know, we all know about Buckingham being the best out of Buckingham, Virginia. We also realized Amherst was the worst because we have a lot of lime in Amherst. So when if we look at the rock quarry down 60, it's a white stone. That's because it has a lot of lime. If you go over here to Mount Athos, it's a real gray. That's where the granite starts coming in and it follows through the vein. So Virginia also has the world's largest rock quarry. It's 45 miles long and goes through 3 counties, and it's right up Route 6 of Walton's Mountain. And we also have in Farmville, when you look over, you'll see a strychnite mountain. It's only 2 strychnite mountains in the world. The other one's in China. They put that on the front for the reentry of the space shuttle. So if you start looking at how Virginia is, half of 29 is really soft, and we go to the other half of 29, the east side, we have granites and real hard stones and stuff like that. The left side of 29, we start picking up a lot of lime.
Yeah.
So just so happens, that was a Amber slate. So it's starting to flake off and look like cheddar chips coming off of it, in other words.
So the front porch and the rear piece, have they already been done?
No.
No.
Okay, but there. So what is the color that I'm seeing, this burgundy?
That's metal.
All right, that's what's going back on, that color?
That's what was approved on the front, the porch in the back,
Yeah, the colonial red.
And you said 1 inch?
1 inch snap lock. I brought y'all a piece. And this is one we did on, actually I showed Rick Morrison this piece.
Yeah.
Now, we have to look at the striations. Just remember, everybody, I'm gonna tell y'all real quick, and I had to educate Rick on this. Striations can come and go. That does not have nothing to do with oil canning. Everybody thinks when you add the striation in it, it keeps this panel from bending. Okay, when the metal will bend nicely one way, looks pretty that way. If I bend it twice, it creates a dent. We call it oil canning. Now, just keep in mind, on God's round earth, we built a square house with round lumber. I promise you, nobody built one square. the metal will do a tattletale on you. So striations are there to actually not notice it as bad. So you don't notice, it makes the metal a little bit more rigid. With or without the striation, it doesn't matter. It's a 3-second dye change out. So the only thing I do is pull the striations. When we go to a lot of historical houses, sometimes we'll leave, if it's bellying real bad, you call it the plate effect, we'll leave like side striations in it. And what that does is it keeps it so it doesn't look like somebody went up there with a 10-pound maul and went to town on it. It just gives it a little bit more nicer look. And, you know, a lot of times the homeowners are a little bit more happier with me. If it's really bad plating, we'll add the center striations in. The bad thing is, for y'all standpoint, y'all gonna say it looks commercialized. And basically what it's doing is it's actually there to, it's for an appearance thing. It's to keep it from looking so bad. Now, this is 24 gauge, that's what we use, that's what I use anyway. And the thicker the metal, it is a lot less to oil can than 26 or 29 gauge.
You need to talk to the guy at 2800 Rivermont.
Did I talk to him?
I said you need to talk to him.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Well, I've had these roofs put in, and we did it in the oldest building in Charlottesville, the Music Resource Center. It was a church. So, and then we did it in Petersburg. So it's this is a common replacement. The roof y'all are looking for is a combed ridge made by Follansbee. A hand turn, a double turn with a combed ridge. That's what y'all really want. But we can't get that no more because Follansbee shut down about 8 years ago. They couldn't keep up with the pre-painted world. When you took all the linseed oil and all the good things that made paint really good, it destroyed their business. And that's the reason ultimately they couldn't coat. See, this comes with a 35-year paint warranty, and that kills everybody. I mean, you know, a pre-painted baked on is much better than having an aerosol or a water-based paint trying to cure out. Everybody wants to go to water-based. That's great until it's there to help keep water off. If we put it on the roof and water hits it nonstop and it's cleaned up by water, how long do you think it's going to last against water? Does that make sense? And to help you out is everybody likes that bright red. When we come into the paints, like colonial red, that's closer to a prime color. If you ever look at prime, it's a colonial, it's a burgundy dark. If you go bright red, you're actually going to take a 1-gallon can and put a dash of burgundy red in it. It's going to make it bright red. But from day one, that gallon's going to want to go back white because you put 6 ounces of burgundy red into a 1-gallon can of white in its whole day. And after about 4 years, it's going to turn to hot pink. So, and then everybody's going to hate you again. So look good this week. Next week, not so much.
So your ridge cap is gonna be
It'll be a box style, but we keep it really, really short and clean. The thing is we have ways to stop it from being box style, but again, it's a non-industry standard and it's pretty much a shop fabricated deal. And we have everything. We go back to any manufacturer is going to go back to the SMACNA book. It's the holy grail for us. It's anything in metal. I don't care what you make in metal. It's a reference there on how to do it in the SMACNA book. And we have ways to try to make a combed ridge, but in reality is it's a made up thing. I mean, there's no SMACNA detail on it. The manufacturer's not going to back it. So it's something to try to please the Historical Society, but on the same turn, it's the worst for the structure because you're relying on caulk. Does that make sense? So what would happen is I'd take this up to the top of the roof, turn it up 1 inch, and then try to make a batten cover to snap over top of it. Well, every 19 and a half inches, I'm going to have to caulk right here. I'm going to have to caulk right here. You're not going to see it from the ground. You're going to be really happy. But when he calls me back in about 8 years and says, hey, man, I got a tremendous roof leak, and I'm going to say, well, kind of come from that combed ridge, you didn't want a box ridge. So when we do the box ridge, it is the best, and it's the one that's not going to have it's going to last the test of time. So Galvalume has already been in the industry since 1974, and they 24 gauge is already predicted to last 125 years. You put a 30-year coating on it, so if you decided we put it on today and we didn't touch it, I mean, we're talking 155, 60 years right there. That's not counting in year 40 that you paint it. So you start thinking about, and then you start saying, okay, I'm gonna add a maintenance issue, which caulk is a maintenance issue. Anytime you put it up.
I can live with the box ridge, the
Striations.
striations. I think the guidelines say none, if I'm not positive on that. Just in terms of historic structure, none is gonna be much more appropriate.
It's gonna be a better look.
Yeah,
For a historical look.
definitely.
But for oil candy, not so much. It all depends on what you wanna see. It's, do you wanna see dents or do you wanna see a striation? It's up to y'all.
Yeah, I think we've got a low slope enough, and I don't think I think that front section is gonna be visible from across the street, so you know, I'd like to see the no striations. I think it's going, even if over time it does some oil canning, I think that's gonna be historically accurate oil canning.
It won't be overtime to be used.
Yeah.
Just, it'll be cause oil candy comes, once as
If
soon as
you-
that metal plates, it oil cans right away.
Yeah,
Now, when it turns 100 degrees outside, you're gonna notice it even more.
Yeah.
Because when metal heats up, it expands. When you go out there, the argument is about oil canning, you go out there when it's 45 degrees and cloudy, 60 degrees, because the metal's gonna shrink. There's not gonna be a shine on it to show the oil
Yeah.
canning. So if you go out there when it's 40 degrees and cloudy, you won't see no oil canning hardly. Wait till 100 and a sunny degree day, it's gonna look like somebody went up there with a 20-pound maul and just went to town. As long as he's okay with it, I'm fine with it. It doesn't, as far as roof functionality,
yeah, it's not gonna,
that is purely an aesthetic thing for everybody else, and it
Yeah.
has nothing to do with the roof itself and its
Yeah.
integrity.
joints are still gonna be good, so.
Yeah, it's still a 24 gauge snap lock
Yeah.
with a 30-year paint warranty on it. So the oil canning is just something that some people like to see and not like to see, if that makes sense.
Any further questions?
I'd like to hear
Comments?
everybody else's opinion on the striation, since I'm newest on the board, you know. Has this issue come up before?
Not that I
I don't
recall.
think
No,
so.
Okay.
This is new.
I don't remember the last metal roof we had, but I don't remember them being suggested, and shown on a sample.
No. That's the first I've seen of it too.
Well, it's a sample piece.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
machine, we load 2,000-pound coils and we hit 17 foot 2 inches and go. I'll program the job before it even leaves the shop. So it's all a computerized system. So if y'all don't want it, it's not a big deal. It's really, it's either, it's not a huge deal. I just tell the computer not to put them in.
I think if you look at any historic structure, you're not gonna see those as an original item. It's something that we've learned or does better for that situation over time, but in terms of historic, it's just not a typical.
And you said not having the striations doesn't affect the integrity of the roof? Okay.
It's purely a cosmetic to help show from showing oil candy. Now, the ones on the side, they actually call them clip releases. And they recommend them, but you don't have to install them. What it does is, as you can see, you're adding a piece of metal to one side. So the outside ones are actually called clip releases. So that allows the going back and forth of the metal to make sure that screw or fastener doesn't rub a hole in this on the male side, or the female side, I'm sorry. So, but at that, we can take them out too. Like I said, it's, if you want to see a clean, sleek panel, 19.5 inches across, we can do that. I mean, it's really up to what,
Can you make narrower panels?
excuse me?
Narrower?
Yes. We can go down, this is a 19 and 5/8 panel. They call it a 20-inch panel. It comes out of a 24-inch mother coil.
Yeah, typically, a historic house will see something less than 18 inches.
Well, all depends on the length of the house.
Mhm.
So when we did that, and yes and no. So it all depends, and I'm sorry, I'm just got all this dumb information. So Follinsby, in 1920, we had the industrial boom. So it all depends on when the house was re-roofed. So in 1920, they started out the industrial boom. The industrial boom, Follinsby used to make a 24-inch or 20-inch coil. On this, we have what we call a 4-inch yield. So a 24-inch coil will make a 20-inch panel, theoretically. In 1920s, we actually start seeing the left and rights. We'll start seeing the lines go left to right every 2 foot. When you see that, they are 19.5-inch panels. They're 2 foot, and that also tells me they were put on after 1920. So when I go up to an 1878 house and I start seeing 2-foot panels, that lets me know right away that house was re-roofed. Now, I get into people, I want to argue about it all the time, but Follinsby didn't start doing that until the 1920s, so.
So when was this house built?
18.
On the bottom porch, we do see some of them where they are after 1920s on some of the additions. So, but with that being said, this is what happens. It's just like a lot of the old architects, what they used to do is when you go wider, you got to go taller. They used to do a rainbow over the house. The door had to be part of it, and the chimneys have to be it. So we also understand too, when you start going 50, 60 feet and you start doing 16-inch panels, it gets really busy and starts to make it look like an agriculture roof. And you know, a metal like Max Kindle cells, because then panels get so close together and it starts making it too busy. So as the roof got longer, we also did longer panels. And then on top of it was relatively what was available from Follinsby. So to answer your question, not really. They're all 16 inches. It all depends on when it was re-roofed and did they use the pre-made panels. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I
And-
guess if we're seeing the porch, I don't know what's already on the porch and what those panels are. I think just for a small house like this, it would seem like a narrower panel would be more appropriate than the big 19s.
The 19th. You're looking from the roadside, but you can also see it when you go down the other side as well. When you're sitting at Kate Butterfield's house looking over, you'll see the long side going down, that side right there. And you'll start noticing the bigger panels will look good there. It's up to y'all. It really doesn't affect it as much. It does add up to the price.
I think a good question on the floor is, when was the house built? Because you would want us to-
1885.
1885, so it would have originally had the wider panels.
Originally had slate.
Well, okay. So, but, okay.
It originally had wider panels in 1880?
Now on the other side, they put wider panels on. So the opposite side we're seeing from here.
But on the roof, it has the 19? You said?
That's slate.
Oh, so on the roof is like,
Tarred slate, right?
Hmm?
Tarred slate.
Oh, yeah. Everybody in there, they put hope in a bucket. Yeah. But I mean, it's ultimately, again, is on that long side, when it's, that side right there is 30 feet and the structure itself is pushing the left or right side. So across that main hip that you're looking at where the chimney is, that's 40 feet. So when you start dropping that down to 16-inch panels, it's gonna get busy quick. And what's gonna happen is it's gonna take it to an agriculture panel. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna make it look like one of the $500 car canopy screw-down panels, because it's gonna be every 16 inches. They're at 12 inches, so it's gonna be really, really quick. You're gonna see a lot of them. Which it's fine. I mean, that's fine to do that, but it's just, I want y'all to understand that it's gonna get busy quick. Most of the houses that I've done in the Historical Society has been 19.5-inch panels.
just curious as to the neighbors. I haven't been in this neighborhood to see, what are your neighbors, Antonio, on both sides of you? What do they have on their roofs?
I got it up on my
You
phone.
know?
I think one has shingle roof on the right corner there. Let me see, I just had it up just a few minutes ago.
They have a hodgepodge too, I believe.
Do either, any of them have metal?
These red ones on that side.
That house right there has 20-inch panels on the front porch. That's Chopper's house. And there's Kay's house. She's got 20-inch panels on her front porch. That one right there. Yeah, that's gonna be 20-inch panels there too. I put the slate on, I know.
And then hers case doesn't have, I forget the word.
The striation.
ridges?
Nope.
Okay.
We actually put that original one on the backside. She come in and had it approved, and they are 20-inch panels as well. And that front porch right there, can we zoom in a little bit? That's gonna be the wide panels too. Zoom in on that one. That one That one also looks like the wide panels. We can do a mathematical equation real quick and find out. But it being said, it doesn't matter whether you go with narrow panels or wider panels. I mean, the overall look, it's not, I promise you, as all y'all go past this house, y'all not gonna go, you know what, I'm really glad we went with the 16.5-inch panel on this one. We nailed it. You know, after you look at it as a complete structure, it's gonna be a lot better project. It's gonna look a lot better than it did than the asphalt over the slate.
So is the request to do it with striations or
No,
without?
just with
or-
metal,
Okay.
just with metal.
So we could say no striation.
Yeah. I just brought the panel in that's just a demonstration
Sure.
panel.
Well, I would make a motion to approve it with the proviso that they don't use the striations.
I'll second that.
Just for clarity, with this size, the 19 or the 20-inch seams versus 16?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
I don't have a heartache with that. I just think the striations are.
Yep.
I agree that oil canning is what these roofs do, and if they do it, they do it, as long as it doesn't affect the integrity of it.
It's not.
So there's a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, looks like you're good to go.
Thank you.
Thank you for all that great information.
That was very educational.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's usually how you have to do it. In Charlottesville, I seen them take out a lot, and I actually had to do a full-scale mock-up. So that's a lot easier. Thank you.
All right, that's the end of new business there. So we can, it looks like we have to have a roof discussion, discuss the use of different appropriate roof coatings for the draft of a roof material sheet.
So essentially, we're staying on topic. That was great last action
Yeah.
item. Right now, the guidelines say that historically correct commercially available roof coatings may be considered for repairs, and the HPC Secretary has information on acceptable materials. Currently, the HPC Secretary does not have a sheet of acceptable material coatings or materials. So this is a discussion to talk about what you would like to see on such a list, what you would recommend to petitioners who are curious.
Mm-hmm.
I'd really like to have Rick in the room to do that.
Yeah,
I second that.
I'd
yeah,
like to
I
read up a little bit more on it.
agree with that as well. Is there not something that we could pull from the national organization?
I was
We can
gonna
take a look.
suggest-
Anne was not aware of any material sheet, so this is
Really? Okay.
something that, if it did exist, it's been lost.
Yeah.
Could we look at like what Charlottesville and Richmond had?
We can do
Also,
that.
See what other
That's possible.
localities
Another
in
municipality
Virginia
that
are
might
using.
be looking
I
at.
think it's also worth reviewing the national
Uh-huh.
recommendations, only because of the one that's coming up on the 2800 Rivermont. I
Mhm.
actually went and read the national suggestions, and they're being a little forgiving and allowing for the reuse of materials being used, but it still looks like, say, a slate, like
Okay.
this, but it actually is not a slate roof, but it looks like slate. And we had something like that come up in our last meeting where they were looking at replacing, I think, the peak of their home, and instead of using wood, they used a polymer product, which we approved. So I think it's worth, even though they
Yeah.
may not have a standard sheet as far as a roof, I think it's worth us reviewing
Okay.
what the national is saying and requesting.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the feverish pace at which Commissioner Morris renovates properties, he is very well versed in who to get what materials from and so on and so forth. He'd be really, really great resource for that. And he can probably just, without even looking at his phone or a Rolodex, he can rattle off names and companies and locations and materials like nobody's business. But it'd be great to have him involved in the conversation. I think also I like what Commissioner Hester said about looking in further into the national guidelines and such, and see if we can
Okay.
yield more information from there. But
And research other cities as well.
yes, and I have to think back of a couple. I know that there was the Rubenberg house on what is that? Is that Cries and Rivermont? Directly right next to Mark and Todd's house. There's the street that's
Oh,
right in
yeah,
between them.
yeah.
I know that they were here before, and
Yeah.
I forget what their original roof was on their house, but he'd come and he wanted standing seam metal like that, and we said, nah, that's no good on that house, and he wound up putting a composite slate, and it turned out really nicely.
So I was not aware, because we recently replaced our slate roof, but we just put slate back. But you can use the fake slate? I didn't.
Yeah, in his case, they did.
That's what we suggested for the city of Lynchburg at the police station, right?
Right.
At the tower that's crumbling?
Yes.
In that case, it was because the tower could not stand the weight of slate anymore. The
Right.
interior
That's
had
true.
been compromised.
Yeah. Yeah, but there are some higher-end composite slate materials that we have, there's precedent we have approved here, so.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's a good little project that we can delve into a little
I
further.
think most commissions are going to accepting the composite slate. It's just such a drastic cost that
Oh, my gosh.
a homeowner can't,
I know that.
yeah,
I'm saying, kind of wish I'd done
Yeah.
that, but I don't know that we would have necessarily done anything
Yeah.
different, but,
I mean, you're talking 50 grand and up
Right.
oh, it was more than that.
to even, yeah, even on a smaller house, so. So I think some good educational materials on the tins. I think there is a way to do a crimped ridge as opposed to a box. That can give you a more historically accurate image.
Right.
I'd like to explore. I didn't have enough background to argue the narrower panel,
Right.
but for me, I would have, I mean, if I'm working on a project of that scale, I would have specified a smaller width and have specified a smaller width on a similarly scale project. So I think that's something that we as a commission would be good to educate ourselves a little more.
Sure. Yeah, I agree.
On the scale, or on on the whole idea of that, or?
Yeah,
So you
yeah,
use
on the whole
narrow
idea
ones
of-
on houses built before 1920 when they
Yeah,
made
and
it?
I don't have enough background in the residential side
Oh,
to
okay.
argue with him on the dates of that,
Okay.
and that's why I didn't go there.
Okay.
Um,
Maybe I'll look that up to make sure that
Yeah,
it's
but I
correct
just-
that he just told us. I mean, I'm not saying he wouldn't tell us the truth, but I'd
Yeah.
like to know a
I
little
mean,
more.
And it
about
may
did
be what
appear
he-
that the
what he
neighbors'
has
houses
learned.
had the wider gauge, but then again, we don't know when those were put on either, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I have is that the roof discussion is tabled until next meeting, and there will be more information presented to go along with it, and we'll have Rick Morse's presence.
And if you could send that out when you send out the agenda, so we have time to review it.
Okay, sure thing.
And we'll do some research in the meantime.
Yes. Outstanding. I think that may conclude the meeting. Any other business anyone would like to discuss?
Oh, I
Please.
had a question that's, you all think I'm probably don't know, and I'm dumb, but in looking at the villa, I know that that property is not in the historic district, but when Mark put the ball up that showed that there would be a sight line from Rivermont, does that in any way implicate us then? I mean, I guess it doesn't if it's not technically on. I mean, can they really build something way up? I mean, because
That
it's not
tall.
historic, could they technically, and this isn't necessarily what they're proposing, build a multi-story thing right behind the villa and we have no way to?
It's not in a historic district. The commission has no
I
oversight.
guess not, yeah.
Just city zoning.
Even if it's
Yeah.
visible, I guess
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, and they have withdrawn that plan to
Right.
redo it, so it's not gonna be at the planning commission, yeah.
Oh,
It's gonna they're gonna revise it, but, it just made me think,
mhm.
you know, theoretically, could you build a multi-story apartment house behind the villa?
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
Smiling back there, Tom.
Marketing. We're doing an HPC video to educate and inform people about the process of the Historical Preservation Commission. And we would like to have a scene where one of you meet with at somebody's house and shows your advocate position, just talking with the petitioner. Would any of you be interested in working with us with scheduling a time, taking a few quick shots with the camera?
I nominate Rick.
I tell you, miss a meeting, you just get pummeled.
I'm not gonna
Can I
ever
ask
miss a
a
meeting
question?
again.
If a COA comes in that's in, like, my neighborhoods that I'm an advocate for, can you send it to me as soon as it comes in? So that I would have more time to, like, meet with the people?
Typically, when the petitioner wants to reach out to their advocate for advice, they ask for it, and then we supply the information.
Because I reach out, do any of y'all ever reach out to them?
I don't think I have had any
Yeah.
questions that necessitated in
Okay,
advance.
okay.
Not personally, I haven't, but.
I've gone by several of them. Sometimes
yeah.
I see them, sometimes I don't.
I mean, I've drive by them.
You're right.
Yeah. A lot of times, though, they'll call you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
typically it's they contact you.
I've been called, I think, just 2 times in all these years, but,
Well, that's because your phone number was out of date.
yeah,
It's a good move.
it's been a while. Yeah, it's a good move.
So on that note, is Mr. Lawson gonna reach out to me? He said he was waiting till September before he meets with his advocate, and I'm his advocate, but I haven't heard from him.
Okay, he ought to. If not, I'll give him a call again and say
Okay.
that you're expecting a
I'd
call.
be happy to meet with him if you would just let me know.
Exactly.
Thank you.
So was there anybody who was
With
interested?
regard to your questions, I'm sure that Rick would not mind that. I
he's
will go
really-
ahead and offer myself up if you need someone, if no one else is available, just
Okay.
holler at me and I'll.
Then I'll reach out to both of you and see how
You-
it works with schedules.
Are you saying it's gonna be a staged?
Essentially, yes. Meet with
Okay.
a homeowner, shake their hand, maybe point around the property some. I
Okay.
don't know what Steve Schmalshaw had in mind, but
Okay.
we have a script.
Okay.
Yeah. Totally unacceptable.
I have a question on old business. 314 Harrison there was a court proceeding scheduled. I don't know if it occurred, and if so, what the outcome was. It was in regards to a chimney in disrepair that was falling in the neighbor's yard.
Where I'm not too familiar with that, but I can look into that and give you the information at
Okay.
a later date.
Perfect, thank you.
Wasn't it pretty much a done deal? Isn't that the way?
I know what the city wanted to have done,
Yeah.
but getting the owner to do those, to do anything was a real battle.
Oof. Okay.
It's 2 of them falling, but one of them's falling quicker than the other, and it's landing in the neighbor's yard.
Hmm.
It's a safety issue. I mean, if the
Yeah.
whole
Of
thing
course.
goes,
Oh,
yeah.
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 Oh, yeah? Do you know if a time frame is good? Okay.
Tom, remove as opposed to repair? So,
Well, now that's interesting, yeah.
well, we had a little discussion 2 months ago in terms of, in essence, demolition by neglect. So that judgment is in essence reinforcing demolition by neglect.
Yeah.
And I believe Ann and Victoria are bringing you some information.
Okay, great.
Completely agree with
Thank you.
Can we appeal?
I think it's an out-of-state land, household owner.
That
you
was the
can't-
case, and I was wrong in one of my things. So it was sold to a lady who lived in Charlottesville, and she apparently is overwhelmed. It was much more than she anticipated initially, and she's just walked away. She hasn't been there in a year, but it's in her
Oh.
name.
Okay.
Huh.
So,
Interesting.
We will be bringing more information to you soon. You can expect a
Okay.
conversation in the future on demolition by neglect.
Terrific. Thank you, Victoria.
Perfect. All right, any other questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, we'll call the meeting adjourned until, I should look at my calendar for it.
September.
September meeting is going to be
16th?
16th. Perfect, 16th at 4 o'clock. We look forward to seeing everybody then. Thank you.